Welcome to the Closer Experience, our midweek experience at the Leadership Church. Closer is a place where believers can grow closer to God. At TLC, we believe that making a spiritual development enhances our relationship with God, and that is more than a Sunday experience. And our Closer community provides just that. And now, the Closer Experience.
Awesome. Hello, and thank you for joining us for another conversation with the Closer Experience. My name is Kevin Bascom. I'm here with my brother from another mother, Rob Charity, and we're gonna continue our conversation on the parables. And today we're gonna be talking about the prodigal son. And just to kind of open it up, Rob, with the definition of prodigal, right? It tells us that it's an adjective that's used to describe someone who spends a lot of money and their resources recklessly and extravagant beyond their means.
Right. Somebody frivolous.
Right. So in that parable there, when we're talking about the prodigal son, we know in the book of Luke, right, where we're talking about the two brothers.
Yep.
And one of the brothers actually asked his father for his inheritance early, right? And what did he do? He went off and
spent it all,
squandered it, right? And the other brother stayed behind, right, and did what he was supposed to do. You know, he lived the law. He was representing the law, I guess.
Yeah, he had to hold down the storefront.
Right.
The other one went to the club.
Right.
His money up in the air.
Right. So in that parable, that's a good context right there, right? Because we see Jesus was around those two people, right? And one was the sinner and one was upholding the law, right? But he treated them both equally. You know, and that's what the book tells us right there. Right, when the other brother came back after he spent all his money, what his father welcomed him back with open arms. Right, he repented.
Yeah, and the thing that reaches out to me most about that is it's just the way the father embraces his son, even though the other son was there by his side the entire time, doing what he needed to do.
Right,
the father knew that when his son came back home, he needed to be there for him, to embrace him, so he can feel welcome, so he can feel like he's still part of his father. It's about being whole. In this parable, God wants us to be whole,
right?
And we're going to dive in further to that. One thing I love to do when it comes to the Closer is to invite people to really pull up to the table. We're having this conversation between us, but I want to just make sure that the people at home watching, make sure you're in the comments with us having these conversations. So if you see something that sticks out to you, please feel free to chime in.
Right. Drop it in the comments.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Drop it in the comments. So good stuff, man. So so that's what I want to talk about when the difference between the two sons. Like what made one want to leave and what made the other one want to stay.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that I kind of want to dive into. Okay. Like, and that's in our everyday life. Right. We ask for stuff all the time.
Right.
And when we get it, we don't do right by it.
That's true.
Sometimes we don't do right by it.
That's
true. We can ask for all this stuff, and when he finally gives it to us, we do what what the other son did. We go out there and just squander it.
Yeah. And that's so human of us to receive. Like if you know that you're already gonna have an inheritance, it's that temptation. It's that thrill to be like, yeah, I have that. I can go do whatever I want with it. And it's important to understand that his two sons, one decided, no, I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna do everything that my father is asking from to do. And then the other son was like, well, I could do those things, but that money though. and it's human nature. You can't fault either one of them for choosing what they want to do. The moral of this parable is to tell you that Jesus, he's gonna, even if you go out into sin, we don't want to continue to live in sin.
Right.
We eventually have to come home, but he doesn't want you to feel like you can't sit with him amongst the others who haven't sinned as much.
Right.
We know that people are sinning. They're just not sinning out loud.
Good way to put that. Just not sinning out loud.
Yeah.
That's so true, man.
But one thing I want to point out is the story is often kind of people kind of misguided without the full context of what was happening. So if you look at Luke 15, you'll see that Jesus, he drew a crowd of people around him. So it was tax collectors, sinners, and the people who were of moral standing, like the brother who stayed and held the storefront down. They were judging. They were asking. They're like, why is this man? Why is Jesus, sitting amongst sinners?
Right.
What purpose does that serve? And that really sticks out to me. And the way Jesus always answers people, like he answers shade by giving these parables. Like I'm being honest. Like I know you hear these terms, it's like, but he answers the shade by giving parables. So he gave the parable of the coin. Same thing. He gave the parable of the lost sheep. You have 99 sheep. I mean, you have 100 sheep. One goes missing.
Right.
You kind of put the 99 to the side, even though 99 still seems like a lot.
It is.
But you go out to get that one sheep.
Yeah.
That one lost sheep. And when you do, you rejoice, you put it over your shoulder, you head back. And from a human perspective, again, you're like, but you got 99 more.
Right.
But for that herder or that the person who owns that property, that's a lot. That missing that one piece is a lot to them.
Right.
People will maybe they may not relate to that because we don't have sheep or anything like that.
Right.
But just think of it as like a house. If I promised to build you a house and it was, I brought it to you and I said it's 99% complete.
Right.
It's all the bricks there except that one brick right there. You wouldn't be satisfied with that, would you?
Right. Nah, not at all. Not 99, not 99% complete.
And that's the same thing with that Jesus is trying to tell people, like the sinner, even though they're doing their thing, they're 1% out there. I still need that 1% to come back to me so I can be whole.
Yes, right. Good. Yeah. 99%. And that's a good thing you brought up, that 1%. A lot of people don't look at that as a lot. Yeah. But to God, that 1% is a lot.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah, it's a whole lot, because if you're only 99%, you're not whole.
No.
So you need that 1%. So that's good right there too, man. So I like the whole book of Luke.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the two sons, right? And I like the part where he's sitting around talking, like you said, he's sitting around talking to the sinners and the people who's just doing bad. He didn't treat them no differently, and he knew what they were up to. Didn't treat them no differently. He tried to save them too.
Yeah, and it makes you question the ones who stayed, because even though they're looking at these sinners, they're in their mind, they're just they're judging. They're like, why are you not sitting with me? Just me.
Right.
It's about me. Like it's about the 99%. But as the church, as a unit that God has given us, we have to not just consider the people who are of the body. We have to reach out to those who have been lost.
Right.
That's an important piece of ministering. That's an important piece of evangelizing. You have to be able to step out of the circle that you've already built to bring more people in, even though they're sinners. They might be, they've done the worst things that you can possibly imagine. We can't just abandon them, and that's what Jesus is trying to teach us. It's just the way he teaches it is so deep to me. Just going into every parable, like the lost coin. She has 10 coins. She loses one. She's scrambling around. Again, that human nature in us always thinks like, well, she got 9 more coins.
Right.
Like, why is she really tripping over this one coin?
And see, and that's good too. And that's what I like about this parable. It's talking about the 2 sons, not just one.
Yeah.
Right. Because the one that went off and got reckless, he could have easily just said, hey, I'm not even taking you back.
Right.
Just go finish doing whatever you was doing. And however you end up is how you end up.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. Once he repented, he welcomed him back with open arms. And how often does God do that to us?
Yeah.
How many times have we messed up and you know what I'm saying?
Too many to count.
I mean, I can't even count. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole lot of times I know I done messed up. And I still go back and he's right there waiting on me.
Yeah, that's God's grace.
That's God's grace, and it's amazing, man. And I don't want that to go unnoticed at all. His grace is amazing, man.
Yeah. And just again to bring it to our level, your father, of course, for you, you have, if you had a child that went wayward and you have a child that stayed, are you going to realistically treat those children any differently? If human nature, you're like, okay, yeah, my daughter that stayed, I'm glad she stayed,
right?
But once that son or daughter comes back that went wayward, you're going to be happy. You're going to be like, yes, thank God that you decided to come back, even though you went out on the road and you was driving 600 miles per hour, just going the wrong way. You decided to turn back around. You hit 285, and like Pastor E always says, hit 285 and went on that loop, and you came back around, and that is a blessing. So it appears that you're more ecstatic for that wayward child.
Right.
You're really kind of dividing your love between them. You gave that child who stayed with you the love that she needed as she stayed with you. That wayward child needs that love that they were missing.
Right.
So once they come back, you throw them a feast. All that is necessary because they were gone.
Right.
And you want them to come back. You want them to stay, and you want them to know that this is love. Same thing with God.
Same thing with God.
When we step out, we step out and do our thing. We, like I said, 600 miles per hour. We get back on 285. God welcomes us back, and He's like, "Yeah, you did those things.
Right.
But I am so glad you're here now. And now that you've gotten that out your system, what can you do now?
Right. Right.
You can do so much more now. Like, it's not too late.
Right.
And again, that's what Jesus is telling us through these parables, is these lost pieces of us is necessary. We should be out there looking for those pieces. We should be out there saying, okay, 99.99% of the people saved is not good enough.
Not good enough.
That 0.01% matters. It matters a lot. It's big. It's a bigger piece than we could ever imagine. It's like a child building a puzzle.
Right.
They have 100 pieces. 99 are complete. Right. They don't have the full picture.
Right. Yeah. It's not a complete puzzle.
If that piece is missing completely, what do you do with that puzzle?
Right.
You have to put it away and say, lost piece.
Right.
I have no satisfaction from finishing this puzzle. Be like, I didn't finish.
Right. Right. And you know what? And how many times do we think like the other brother, the one who stayed?
Yeah.
And when his brother came back and his father welcomed him with open arms, he was mad.
Yeah, he was looking.
How many times do we feel like that? We get salty.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? And like, hey, we even watched him run off. And he didn't came back. I've been here doing the right thing all this time.
Everything you asked.
Right. So now that you come back now that he comes back, you give him the fat calf. You know what I'm saying? Give him the feast. Yeah, you gave him everything. And I've been here holding it down. And
like, where's my feast?
Right. So how many times do you, as men, I can say I can feel like that too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's been times where I'm looking like judging another person. You know what I'm saying? Like, why they getting all this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why are these blessings coming on them? And I know what they doing.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I get that. So I get both sides.
Yeah.
I get both sides.
And it's important to get both sides.
Yeah.
We can't separate it from one. You can't take sides of the sons.
Right.
The parable is about both. Like you said, it's about both sons.
Right.
It might be titled after the son that went wayward,
right?
But it's still important to understand not only both sons, but the father as well.
Right.
Because, from a spiritual place that represents God, that represents his people who are there for him and, do the right things, and the people who, are lost and did come back home.
You're right.
Because that's the most important part. The wayward son didn't just leave and stay gone.
Right.
He came back.
Yeah, he came back.
He might have spent all his money and he had to come back. But that's basically how I got back to church. I was the wayward son.
Yeah.
I rejected everything about church. I didn't grow up in church. So I was like, I don't need that.
Right.
I can read the Bible myself.
Right.
And it was to the point where, my body, it was failing me and I needed to come back. And what God has done in my life since I've been back, it's just, I feel the love. I feel God really just reached out to me and said, welcome back, my son.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna put you in a good church. I'm gonna let you have this time to, you know, speak to Deacon Kev, speak to Pastor Tony, speak to Elder JP. These people who can pour into you. You know, they are my faithful servants, and I'm glad, you know, just to have people around me to lift me up, just knowing that I was gone for so long. Does that relate to you?
Yes, it definitely relates to me, man, because I was wayward too before I found the leadership church. You know what I'm saying? Like I was out there doing all kind of stuff.
I wouldn't be able to tell based off of just knowing you.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, I was wayward too, man. Just to keep it funky with you. Like I always say, we got to keep it funky. But I was wayward too, man. But I'm glad I'm on this journey.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you see the positivity. You know what I'm saying? I like building with brothers like you.
Yeah.
I love being around Pastor Tony, Pastor E. I love the church family all together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I like this. It's just a genuine love there. People just care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we just genually care for each other. It's not no fronts. We ain't out here faking around.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Very transparent.
Yeah, it's very transparent.
Too transparent sometimes. But it's real. It's a real love. It's a real like we're saying with the parable. Like it's we came home, we got welcomed back with open arms, the feast, the best meat that was provided, you know, that compassion that God shows, that our leaders show, that the people around us show. It's enhanced when we listen to these parables, and we're really appreciating what God and Jesus is trying to tell us through these parables. It's not just a story.
Right. It really isn't, man. And you really got to dive into those parables. Because if you don't, you kind of get lost.
Yeah.
And your mind kind of just stops thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because those parables can be kind of difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you break it all the way down.
Yeah.
Like you just can't read a little bit of it.
Definitely not.
You gotta break it all the way down. You gotta do a deep dive into those parables. Because if you don't, you're not really getting the whole word.
Yeah. And even with that, you have to be able to have these type of conversations, have a closer experience to discuss a parable. You know, we didn't talk about this 2 weeks ago.
Right.
You know, we studied on our own and we brought what we needed to the table, and it's enlightening the perspective that you brought to this. Like I wouldn't even consider that. Like just my mind would go to, I need more context. But you brought a perspective of who those sons were and what they really, you know, mean to what God is trying to tell us.
Right.
And I just love that about just being on, you know, the closer experience, that we can take what we're reading and kind of put it into action, into the discussions. And then we can see those who are, you know, commenting on YouTube, Facebook, take that feedback and it continues beyond just a Wednesday night experience. You go throughout the whole week. I'll talk to Pastor Tony about it, and he's like, "Yeah, you know what you said about the radio on your last," and it's so good to just be able to connect with people. And it's kind of like how Jesus brought us together, or brought the sinners and, you know, everybody together to give parables. I could just imagine, you know, being with those people and hearing this story while I'm reading. I'm like what's their reactions? What do they want to say? You know, and this is a great platform for that.
It really is, man. It really is. And the thing about this parable, we're talking about the two sons, right? The father had to like basically redeem both of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He had to redeem both of them, the good one and the bad one.
Yeah.
So, and that goes to show his love right there.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't judge, you know, and like you said, it's easy for us in the human form to just be judges. That's what we do. We look at this person, oh, he got this, she got that. We judge it.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not looking at the whole thing, and we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be doing that at all.
Yeah.
So, and that also reiterates God's love. You know what I'm saying? It reiterates his love and his grace.
Yeah.
Because his father definitely had it for him to welcome him back after he took all the money and squandered it.
And he took the time to explain it to his other son too. Just not he didn't just leave him hanging and saying like, you know, I could do whatever I want. I'm your father.
Right.
And he broke it down to him, like you were saying. He redeemed him by saying, you know, in Luke 15:32, it was meant that we should make merry and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found. What was lost is found.
Right.
So he's breaking it down to his son, the one who stayed with him the entire time. Like, be glad that I found, like, your son, your brother found his way back to you. I get it. He did everything wrong.
Right.
You did everything right. But now let's be
happy that he's back.
Happy that he's back. Now we have the chance. You have the chance to lead him. Like, you have a new role in this relationship between you and your brother, to be that guidance, to say, here's the steps that I took to do right by your inheritance. Like, let me show you now that I have this experience.
Right.
I can
show you what it is.
I can bring you into the fold. Like, you're back, you're new. Like, you're basically, when you come back to God, you're basically a new being, a new child in God. And that son that came back, he needs his older his brother. He needs that that discipline.
Yeah, he does.
So you have that. You went through that with your father to give him that. So you had a role to play in this story too.
You're right.
Everybody had a role to play in this parable. And I look at the ones that were judging when Jesus brought them together, the sinners and the tax collectors and whoever else, the liars, the cheaters.
Right.
And I have to ask them, like, what role are you playing in helping these people? Instead of just sitting there judging, instead of just sitting there like, well, you know, I don't think he should be sitting there with sinners. That don't make sense.
Right.
And we do that in the church too. It's like, why is that pastor talking to that girl who was on TV, you know, half naked? Like, why is he ministering to her when he could be ministering to me, who's been in the church
all this time,
doing setting up the tables and setting up the Like, why is he giving time to that person? Because that person needs it.
Yeah.
You've already experienced God and experienced the choice of making, you know, going down the road of salvation. That other person has not.
Right.
And really, it's a delicate situation where maybe that pastor has to pour more into
him. Yeah.
It's a realistic thing.
It is a realistic thing. I can see that. And that's the good thing about God, right? He loves the people who go to church and the people who don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's no judgment. He has a no judgment zone.
Yeah, it's no picking and choosing.
Yeah, it's no picking and choosing. Everybody's equal. You know what I'm saying? Even though you was in the club last night, you know what I'm saying? You came back to church today. He got you.
Yeah, you was out at 4 a.m. You woke up,
right?
Drunk your coffee. You got that's not a shout out to anybody in particular, but he you know, he gives us that grace, not to continue to live in sin, but he knows that we are human. And I say it like this: I'm not I might appear to be smart or anything like that, but I go out and I make the dumbest mistakes. I say the worst things when I'm angry, or when I'm, you know, if I get a little bit of extra, you know, I might make a purchase on Amazon. I look on Amazon, I'm like, I need that chair. I don't need it, but I wanted it. So I spent what I could have used and enhanced God's kingdom. I could have reached out. I could have, you know, given more to the, you know, the tech team, the tithes, or offerings, or even just to serve more. I could have used my time more effectively, but God gave me the grace to be like, okay, next time.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna hold it to you next time.
Yes, that's basically what he says. Next time.
Yeah.
So so
that's coming.
right. So that's good right there, man.
Yeah.
And I like this too, because I like the way that he said he's like you said, he was sitting there eating with the sinners and the bad people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't treat them no different than the ones who he knew were good.
Yeah.
You know, he treated them the same as if they were good.
Yeah.
So you would have never known.
Yeah. You wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know the difference. And I see what you were saying as far as the other person feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, why is he pouring into that person when I'm doing everything right? You know what I'm saying? You should be over here with me. Like, forget that person. You know, you already know what they're over there doing, and you know you're pouring into them, and they're gonna go back out there and do the same old thing. But that's not your concern, right? You're trying to pour into them to build them back up. You need that 1%. If you got the 99, like you said, you're not cold, you're not complete without that 1%. So that 1% is a big deal, man.
It's a big, huge deal.
It is a huge deal. So I don't want that to go unnoticed as if it doesn't matter. Because it definitely does. It doesn't seem like a lot, but you're not whole without it.
And I will say this, like, it's not touched in this parable, but just again, in a human understanding, if you left the 1% incomplete, eventually it's going to wear down to 2%, 3%, and now you have people leaving because they see how you just let
people go.
You're just like, I don't need them. And people feel that they don't. If we're truly going to follow, the example that Jesus set for us, we can't just sit there and let people go. We can't. We can let them if they're going somewhere different to get ministered, that's fine. But just to let them go wayward and not address it, that's an issue. So we don't want the 1% to go 2% and then eventually 13%, and then eventually 27%. It's like, what if the father would have let his son go wayward, and then if his son came back, he was just like, no, you're not coming back. What would the other son think at that point? It's like, well, my father is kind of cruel. He has no compassion. It's different things that might have happened. You can draw different assumptions, and eventually that does wear out on a person. Like to see somebody, cold and calculated. And I'm just glad that God is not like that.
Me too. And on the flip side of that, imagine the other brother, right? When the wayward one came back home, right? And if his father would have shut him out, I wonder how the other brother would he have felt like, that's what you should have done? You know what I'm saying? Like, you should have shut him out. Like, don't let him back in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder if that would have crossed his mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, thanks, Dad. You did the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Don't let him back in. He did wrong. So keep him out there.
I'm the superior.
I did everything right. So I'm the man.
Give me the
So I wonder if that thought would have came to his mind. Like, or if he would have just had the compassion, like you said, to say, hey, that's my brother. Let him back in. So good stuff, man. So good stuff.
It's awesome just to be able to read these and kind of draw not to say that your conclusion is right or wrong, but to draw a conclusion, to speak it out loud, and to really dive deep into these parables. I know everybody who's speaking on the parables on the Closer, everybody was dropping gems, nuggets, and it helped minister to me, and just to see different perspectives on it. It's a great read to go back and read it.
It really is, man.
You can read it by yourself and you might understand it one way, but when you really let a church speak on it, and you come together, you come sit in a circle, and you're like, hey, this is what I got out of it. To me, it helps me more.
It does.
It's like it reinforces things that I was thinking, and it kind of realigns things that I might have thought wrong. Like I might have seen a situation, because you read something, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then somebody say something, oh, you missed. It said no more. You thought it said more worthy. it's like, oh shoot, let me go read, verse 19 over again, just to get that context.
And that's why I love these closer conversations, man, because we just sit here and we have a conversation, and that's what I like about it, because what you think about the parable is something totally different what I think, but it's in the same context. You know what I'm saying? We can put it together, and I'd be like, oh, what Rob said makes sense.
It's like,
I didn't think of
it's like making, taking your 50%, taking my 50%, and we made it whole. Just like, the son and the other son, they're a whole family, they're a whole unit. Everything about the father and his sons, it's a whole parable. It's everything made whole.
That's the bottom line. Everything made whole. By him coming back, made it whole. With him gone, that was too much. You know what I'm saying? So that was awesome. just to see how his father accepted him back like that, just like God does with us on a daily basis.
Yeah, and
right?
I'm just so thankful for TLC. I'm thankful for having this conversation with you.
Right.
Everything that goes into making this production, this closer experience. I thank everyone. Thank y'all for joining.
Yes.
Thank y'all for just being with us tonight on a Wednesday night, every night. Make sure that y'all are liking, subscribing, sharing, follow,
posting, chatting, everything.
It should be everywhere. We shouldn't go to what they call the For You page without seeing without seeing something positive in your life.
Right.
Like it's time to add positivity, and that's what the closer experience is.
That's exactly what it is, brother. But Rob, man, I appreciate you being here with me today, brother. This conversation is always on time.
Anytime,
man. I appreciate it, man. I want to say thank you to everyone out there who took the time to go on this experience with us today. We don't take it for granted. That's my closing words. Yeah. You have any closing words?
Thank y'all. Love y'all, and see y'all next time.
No doubt. Thank you.